Okay, roll call. I'll go down the list. Coiner.
Oh,
Here.
okay.
Let's
Do you want me
see.
to?
Here.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Coiner,
Here.
Duffy, Knopf,
Here.
Lamech, Peterson,
Here.
Robertson,
Here.
Schlew, Spratt, here, Thomas,
Here.
Trees, Woodard. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay. Talk. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes? Are there any additions or corrections? Well, seeing none, all in favor of the minutes as they stand, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved.
Richard, can we get that motioned and seconded, please?
Okay, I'm sorry. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I approve it.
And Leah Spratt second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. The next order of business is public comment. I don't see any public, so we can move on. Under old business, the Park Development Fund. Were we supposed to turn in our list or wait till?
Nope. Final presentation put in. And then lastly, once you guys approve the slate, then it goes to council for final approval and discussion. So it can change from then. Ultimately, council still has the prioritization of the final project. So with that, we'll get into the actual projects at hand. So first up, Teresa's going to come up and talk about some of the recreation projects, junior theater, and Roosevelt and other things. So.
Sure. Well, Teresa Hammond, Senior Recreation Manager. Junior Theater put in, I think, a total of 4 different projects. Yep. The first one being a safety issue. Right now, to like change the lights and everything, every once in a while when there is a big need, we transport a different lift in the system, but now it's actually kind of too heavy and too bulky to get it in there. This would be housed then at Junior Theater, for them to be able to do like the changing of the sets and the lights and all of that kind of stuff. So that one is a safety issue and a $10,000 project. The $60,000 was just to remodel a space to make more space available for the dance program. They're pretty self-explanatory. The $20,000 was to remodel the dressing room area to make it more accessible. And the scene shop is located, I don't know how familiar you are with the complex. I know we were supposed to do a tour there, but due to the weather, we've had it changed many a time. And this scene shop is located in a building to the west of the cottages. It's like an old garage for them. Yep. And so this, again, would just make it safer, because they actually do work in there for the sets, and they store stuff in there as well. Any questions about those projects?
What is the participation? How many people are using the junior theater?
Junior Theater Complex, well, I can tell you for this session alone, there's like 524, I want to say. It's been raising about 35% every year, and for dance and theater. So it's pretty well utilized every day of the week, to be quite honest, because the days that we don't run classes, which are getting kind of maxed out, we actually do rent the theater then to other programs too. So
So it's just not a
it's a
select.
pretty highly utilized area, and now a lot of, because of the usage, is it's creating actually the need for spaces to be remodeled because of just the age of the facility.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
One on the lift, that's the stage itself, am I correct?
Yes.
So we're refurbishing that because more of, not only for the color and the visual, but for safety as well.
The lift is actually to be housing a lift there for them to be changing. That, for every set and light design, and like I said,
Oh, I guess I don't understand that then.
right here,
the
like
left.
there's a ladder, because that's how they do it right now. They actually have to use a ladder and go up, and then move the ladder over, and then go down, and then
Oh,
all of that. That's where I'm saying it is kind of a safety issue too, because again, to save time, sometimes it would be like, oh, can I reach it from here? Do you know what I mean? That's why we're asking for
okay,
that.
so that's a priority there. Yeah, okay.
Wendy, do you have a question?
I want to go to the shop remodel. You mentioned the word safety, so do you have a tidbit on what would be included in the remodel? I see some interesting exit doors. Is it access to the entries that might be an issue? Is it lighting? Do you have a sense of that?
From when I've been in there, it would be all of the above. And Betsy's nodding, so I feel like I'm pretty safe in saying that. It is a very old building, and even had been discussed about tearing it down, but I don't think we can. There's like areas of the ground that definitely would need to be re-poured, and I would assume like it's lighting to make it more feasible to be utilizing the space.
Well, I'm familiar with where that building is, and I know that you go up a very steep hill to get over for parking with Junior Theater, and so I'm wondering if that lay of the land is a factor as well. Would it be mostly inside remodel, or is there something about exterior that would be
I
also
think this would be
included?
just for the inside. But, and also, I think once that gets started, that it's Junior Theater Inc.'s, on their purview to possibly go for some grant money to match that, so to do some other remodeling parts of that.
And you mentioned one other thing.
And that's really almost all of these projects. He's had discussions with that board to try to maximize whatever projects we do.
Of all of the things that are being proposed on the list, is there, besides what you just said, kind of a sense that at some places they may contribute to their separate funds on all of those projects, or is this a key one?
The amounts are key to actually doing that specific part. Like I said, he'll, depending on what you all get as feedback and the council, I think then he will take that back to Junior Theater Board to see if there's ways of maximizing those projects that are chosen.
Thanks.
Yeah, Teresa, does the staff at Junior Theater or the board have any preferences, just out of curiosity, of these projects?
I would probably say via my conversations with Daniel, that the lift is like a big priority to him. And the scene remodel shop, they've been discussing for years. I think they do utilize the space, and they're getting concerned about the fact that if they're gonna be able to continue using it. Those two. The other two, I think, are just because of usage.
Yeah, I did. Matter of fact, you just answered my question because I wanted to know what the director thought about what his priorities were of what had to be done there first, because you're spending a lot of money here
Right.
on the Junior Theater. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd say just go do the whole thing, because my grandson was involved with that. They got an excellent program there, and it does more than just teach kids. It does a lot of things.
No, it does a real lot. No,
A
they
lot
do.
of things.
And like I said, a lot of it is because they have so much activity there that it is causing the needs higher.
Yeah.
And it is very old facility. I mean,
But you did answer my questions there, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Are there classes that take place in that scene shop room? No. Okay, so that's.
but we do have
okay.
staff there, staff in there.
So staff.
And sometimes the Junior Theater Inc., the principle of it is that kids are learning how to do all parts of a show. So there may actually be participants that make the show, like working on the set. But most of that is staff.
Okay, all right, thank you.
One last question. There are other associations and groups that use the theater. And so do they have access to all of the stuff that we're talking about, like the rooms, and would they have access to the lift and the remodel and the scene shop? How is that worked out, or do they just use the
Scene shop,
auditorium?
no. Typically, that's just for junior theater projects or internal. The dressing room and the dance studio, yes, that is part of the reasoning for, especially the dressing room. The lift is yes and no. Typically, staff do those things for renters, so
And
they
then
would
is,
have access to it in a way. They would get the benefit of it, for sure.
so is that part of the rental fee to have access to the other parts, or is it just
Ye-
part of just, here's our facility, we want you to use it?
Yes and no. The dressing room is usually a part of the production, so that wouldn't be considered an extra. You know, I mean, we wouldn't charge them extra for that. The dance studio would be, like, if you're renting, you would be renting that space, parceled out. So again, it's kind of yes and no.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thanks. I have one more. So the dance space, this is how it looks now?
This is how the inner part, the other part, yeah. He's talking about it, he's just saying that this is what, they had remodeled this,
Okay.
and this would be an additional space, right? Yeah.
So another dance studio just like this?
There's another space that we had been using for storage, which they have cleared out, that they would turn into more dance space.
Okay. So they'd need everything, the glass, the floor, the everything for a new space?
Yeah, that's why he's saying that at ballpark.
Okay.
If it was more, it would, again, he would probably go to the board to get whatever more it would be than that.
Okay.
Brian, what was your question?
This is basement area. Yeah. Which, again, Daniel, if the weather is okay, I'm sure he is fine with anybody contacting him and giving a tour, or having any of his staff doing it. So,
Well,
if you had
we're-
any questions about the space, you could
Yeah.
also address him.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Go ahead and move on there,
Okay.
Teresa.
Okay. The Roosevelt Community Center is similar, but we just had combined that into that because we haven't given it much update in a while. So she kind of basically put everything together, met with Betsy and went through the building as to like what kind of stuff could we do to make this just a nicer community center in general. It's an old building like we seem to have a lot of, and we just have a very good renter in Head Start. They're even looking to expand. They utilize the building Monday through Friday year round, and there's a senior center in there. So those things are regular, which would be nice for just those users, but there's also a lot of renters and just programming and rentals in general that go in that building. Question
And
about
it's
this?
widely used in that neighborhood too, isn't it?
Yeah, and there is a lot of, with the success of the indoor sandbox and, like I said, Head Start being in there and kind of expanding, there's a little bit more addressing to the building. So it would be nice to show it a little love, is what she's thinking. And Betsy had gone on a tour in a building similar in Indianapolis, that these kind of upgrades really just make a huge difference, you know, in the look of the building, so.
Yeah, $65,000 to put carpet in, and that's the main hallway that goes down to the gym.
The whole hallway, yeah.
That from one end, I mean, there's just one hallway there.
And the stair repair and fixing it and sidewalks outside. And, LED lighting and, a couple of like nicer signage, so it's like uniform and not just like paper signage up there.
You think carpet's a good idea there?
I questioned it a little bit, but like I said, Betsy went on a tour. Do you want to help me with this? Because they actually convinced me that it would make a huge difference.
I'm a CAPRA accreditation visitor, so I have the privilege to go around to various departments throughout the country, and was in South Bend, Indiana at a converted, it was exactly like this. It was a school that was given to the Park District, and they converted it, and it was absolutely amazing to me walking in and seeing carpeted floors, how you did not feel like you were in an old school. And it was mind-boggling to me, just the transformation that it made. And they use theirs as a community center now as well. So that $55,000, the big ticket items are carpet, but also LED lighting. If you've ever been in a facility that has the old fluorescent lights and have gone in when it is an
That's made it
amazing
better
change.
everywhere. All the facilities that we do that it does make a huge difference.
So, painting is also included. Right now, it's got that wonderful institutional yellow that is everywhere. You know, you brighten that up, and all of a sudden, you know, you've got a facility that says welcome, as opposed to a facility that says, I'm an old school, and we're just trying to make.
I was just kind of concerned that carpet, only lasts so long. I would think that maybe tile would probably be a better thing than what, I mean, you definitely need to put something on the floor there. I understand that. But I wasn't sure if carpet would be
Yeah,
the
and
answer to
it
that.
would certainly be, part of the reason it's a fairly decent price tag, it would be an industrial grade carpet. You know, it's
Yeah.
not gonna be a residential carpet, it's
Yeah.
definitely gonna be an industrial grade. We'd probably invest in some sort of carpet cleaner, so we could stay up on that.
Yeah.
Some industrial vacuums, again, to keep up on that.
I just think carpet squares, the things that they got now, those are nice because it just one goes bad, you just pull that one up, put a new one in, and go. And the other thing I was just wondering about, could those be like in a stage? I mean, 2019, 2020, 2021, or would it be best just to do them all at one time?
However it pans out is how we'll do it, definitely.
Wendy?
Does the improvement suggestions also include upstairs or just lower level?
The
Lower
stairs,
level?
but otherwise all the lower level, because
Okay.
technically, we only rent upstairs.
Okay, okay, good. The other thing is, what about anything about updating and painting in the restroom? That's pretty
Painting would,
dated, or is it mostly painting? Okay, is there any need of repairs in the restroom at this time?
the
Regarding-
bathrooms themselves have been relatively updated based on that we had to do, you know, what I mean, for different usage. And Head Start, like I said, is in there, and we're licensed to have people. So a lot of those updates have been happening incrementally. This would be like a larger bulk way of doing it rather than just kind of patching.
Thanks.
Any other questions with that? No? Okay. This is Betsy.
So Vanderveer as well has just a kind of a compilation there. On the left is our warming house that has in the past been used as a warming house for ice skating. The past few years, ice skating has not been very, the weather's not been very conducive to outdoor ice skating, which is wonderful that we have the River's Edge. But those are cosmetic updates. It's kind of a sad looking building right now. Conservatory glass roof repair, just have some glass up there that just needs some replacement. And to do that safely does cost a fairly significant amount of money. And then we have our stone building, which is on the north side of Central Park there. It is our work area for horticulture staff as well as some park staff there. And just that's a roof replacement at that facility. Sorry, question? It would be the roof as well as a complete paint job, gutters, probably replacing the windows.
Looks like the door needs to be repaired.
The door, the door's a little sad, yes.
I was curious about in replacing glass. Is there any discussion these days in greenhouses to have energy efficient glass as it's being replaced? What's the discussion there, or is it really too expensive?
Our facility, the age of our facility, I don't know that is feasible. We have an ongoing CIP there and every other year funding. One thing that we are going to look at is automated vents, or automated shades. Because as you will see, in the summer, we paint that glass because otherwise the sun comes in and burns our plants. One thing we'd like to do is to have a shade cloth, that would go up. It just will look nicer. So you have clear glass.
And you said it's CIP, so
Yeah, so-
when do you have a sense of when that's?
It's an every other year funding, so we'll
So-
have funding again in 2020.
2020? Okay, coming up. Thanks.
Hello, Troy Evans, Superintendent of Revenue Facilities, and I'll talk about the River's Edge items that are on the list. The rental skates is obviously, all the skates that we provide for the public skates. They wear through pretty fast. We do them in increments now, but we had the opportunity to put them on the list as to replace our whole batch and get everything up to a really nice standard at the ice rink. So on a full skating day, we don't have one person having new skates and the next person having some pretty rough skates. The parking lot repair that's on the list, you guys are all aware of the parking lots has some potholes and the runway that goes out to the street is in terrible shape, and the water that comes down off the bridge affects it a little bit, but there's several places that need to be repaired, so we're going to overlay that. And then the lobby remodel is basically a facelift in the of technology and of furnishings that you experience when you come in the front doors. Maybe a new front desk that's more ergonomic and more efficient for everybody to use as they greet customers, and other technologies built in there too. Any questions? Chris?
Yeah, okay, 75,000. So I assume LEDs are in that as well, or no?
Yes, that would be the whole lobby and down the halls that you see on both sides. So yeah, like the lighting that we replaced in the rest of the building, we would upgrade.
Upgrade
lighting down
that.
the hallway to LED.
Maybe a new desk. What else are you guys thinking?
Well, that desk that we have out there is pretty large, and we still want to keep a lot of capacity for front desks to be able to do a lot of different things out of there. It would just be a lot of modernization of that space to with tech for opening up for technology and things that make it more flowable for customers and more pleasing. Don't really have any specifics. We don't have a design on that yet.
Oh, okay.
Put it in there.
Okay, thank you.
Any of that stuff, any of the LED stuff, can it be in-house? We got people on staff that can do that or not?
No. Yeah.
Okay,
We plug them in. That's about it.
okay.
Next would be Wendy.
I just want to reiterate the flooring and the uneven surface at the entryway, and of all the things that I hope goes to the top of the list in the remodeling, because
Yeah,
you
that would be
trip
part of
over
it.
those things terribly. And for those who haven't been in there recently, the Formica countertops are starting to decompose. You know, kids with blades and, you know, even the exchange of resharpened blades hit it, you know, kind of thing. So it is starting to look its age, that's for sure. And don't forget about spending more money on properly sized shoelaces. Keep that on your list if you get the funds. Thanks.
Yes, just one more question. Do you recycle old skates? What do you do with old skates?
That I'm not sure. I'm not aware that we do, but I do know that if there's any if there's any recyclable value to them, it's looked at. But
Okay,
they're pretty. As far as like the only thing that would be recyclable would be the materials and the metal. They wouldn't be recyclable to be used anymore. They're pretty wore out when we're done with them.
okay.
Kim?
Has that roof down there been replaced?
Part of it has been done. The CIP that we accomplished last year was over like where the lobby is, and that flat roof part where you walk in and walk down the halls, and some of the stuff that's on a future list for the overall improvement is the lofted roofs.
Okay, like over the conference room, that used to leak in there. I don't know, did that get, that got, okay.
So here's a four different projects. Goose Creek Disc Golf, which was presented to you by Neighborhood Association. That is our best guess price for 18 holes out at Goose Creek Park. Every year, as you know, we try to fund a playground. Our next playground on our list is Jungie South, and we feel $60,000 would replace that unit with a nice new unit that does include mulch surfacing, not the pour in place. The South DOLA, so South Dog Off Leash area, some enhancements there. The gate area, dogs are excited to get there, so they get in the gate and they immediately go right or left. And right and left then becomes basically a mud bog that we've tried many, many different things to try to keep from being a mud bog. that would replace basically approximately that area in yellow with an artificial dog turf. And then the $15,000 is for fitness stations along the recreational trails. Those would be, we'd piece those out either along the Riverfront Trail or along the Duck Creek Trail. And then, I thought there was one more. So questions on?
First of all, the fitness stations, that's along the Duck Creek,
Duck Creek and Riverfront.
all everywhere.
$15,000.
Would that cover all the whole thing?
It would not.
I didn't
know,
think it
we-
would.
Yeah, no, it would not. We'd piece them out. We have a few existing ones that have been put in by Eagle Scouts, so we'd, space them out equally along both of those.
And in the same, are we growing the trails too? Is that part of this or not? So that's not even talked about or
So
discussed?
in our
Or is that-
regular CIP program, there are 2 CIPs out there. One is for trail repair, and then there's also for sectional repair. So those are 2 fairly large. I want to say there's 140 total.
What about new?
There is a complete streets committee that is citywide that is looking at additional trails connecting the Duck Creek Trail down to the Riverfront Trail. And that is a very large project.
How do we get connected with that to a certain point?
I believe Chad sits on those meetings when they are available. He would be invited to sit. We would have a representative.
The reason why I say that, I'll bring it up now, and is the fact is that at the end of Emais, where the trail stops, it should continue all the way down to the hill,
Yep, and that is definitely
and
part
that's,
of
that would make a complete loop there.
Right.
That, I'll chime in, that committee has just completed a multimodal comprehensive plan. I think it's coming up for council review, but parts of the component that has all the connectivity issues and different things, I haven't reviewed it completely myself, but I'll take a look at it and see if there's anything in there regarding the Emais trail system, and if not, we can look to see if that could be considered.
My next question is in the dog park. That's gonna be a grass, like for dogs, but that's gonna be cement underneath? Is that what that will be, cement underneath of it then, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's an artificial turf, so we would install it by manufacturer's specifications.
Okay, that's all I got. And I think that anytime we can replace park, playgrounds, for me, just do it. That's what we need to do. Thanks.
Do we have any tire repair or air stations along the recreational trails?
We just purchased one. So that will be installed at Eastern Avenue Park in cooperation with Quad City Bike Club is helping us purchase that. We will install our first one this spring. Is there? So next is our aquatics area. To the left is a project to start the renovation of our sand play areas, as well as at Fetcherberry Family Aquatic Center. When that was built, one of the trends at the time was to put sand volleyball in. Over the years, that trend has kind of fallen away. That would be a perfect area for us to put a shelter and potentially a birthday party rental area. So we'd be looking at that. And then also to take out some of the sand play, and then we have a future CIP to replace that with maybe a small splash pad. And then each of the pools does have a PA system that is aged, And so the $3,000 would replace that as well as help with some radio upgrades. If you guys listen to the radio at all, you know, sometimes the music is great, but the ads aren't so much. You do Sirius Radio, you kind of eliminate that. So that would be the upgrade. I want to say 450. So this would be for their infrastructure, and we, as we add, we currently have it at the River's Edge. We just recently added it to Vanderveer, adding 3 more. Like anything, once you start adding, you get bulk pricing and.
I don't have a question, I got a comment. For $3,000, why don't we just do stuff like that? I mean, that's entailing 3 different parks or something like, I mean, it's $1,000 a park and it just,
It is.
Just
and,
do it.
And part of why we don't just do it is our operating budgets are so tight that a $3,000 purchase that means I'm maybe not purchasing chlorine, you know, out of my operating budget. So that's why we come to you, you know, that is the beauty of the Park Development Fund, that we can ask for some of this icing. I mean, this is icing. Do we have to have it? No, but it would be really nice. And so our operating budgets are all such that we only buy what we have to have out of those.
All right, I'm back. A few golf related items. The first one, the Duck Creek walking path, is an actual conceptual path of a walkway that connects the lodge and the clubhouse and the golf clubhouse. And this, we feel, we've been sitting on this idea for a long time, that we have a lot of weddings, we have a lot of golf outings, and we're trying to connect that those 2 buildings with a walkable way versus getting in your car and driving up to the parking lot. Another example would be if we have a golf outing that's renting the lodge, like they do often, is the ball boys can pick up the golfer right at the lodge and shuttle them down this path straight to the golf cart, or they can walk. If there's a wedding going on at the lodge, like there is almost every weekend, right? The golf course is a popular place for them to peruse around, and it would be available for people to make their way over to the clubhouse, share the facility over there, and we see a lot of inner workings going on with that path. The one I pictured in the picture is actually a permeable one too. Those are real popular now. So instead of like an asphalt, it would be a firm path, but it would also be made of something that is a product that would the water would flow through it and be very environmental in that way. The middle one shows a little bit more of an industrial look. That's on the slope, the north-facing slope of Duck Creek Golf Course. We have a service road that goes from our maintenance shop off Kimberly all the way down to the bridge, crosses the bridge, and that's a major service artery for forestry. All of our service trucks are like when we have portable toilets. If there was an emergency of any kind, for a fire or an ambulance, would use that road, and it erodes really bad coming down that hill. And there's a couple spots. Those of you that ever play golf on the place, you know I have a couple problem areas on that slope. So I'm proposing to acquire some money to pave over a nice asphalt look to some of those troubled those eroded areas, so they stay firm and ready for the traffic that's needed there. Plus, it's aesthetic for the golfer to play over versus the gully or the washout that they get periodically now during the rains. And then the Cosmic Golf that we talked a lot about last meeting or previous meeting is a system we would purchase that comes as a packet of items that you stick a battery like your drill, like your cordless drill battery on it, and it actually airs it up and lights it up, so it's completely portable. You put these in this instance, we put them out on, we did a trial one this summer. We put them out on the range, and the people hit temporarily glowed balls at them, and you can see that they hit. And then they have a chip in them that reads back to a computer. So if you are keeping track of points or something, it can be set up and organized to count, kind of like a fun golf activity. And this would allow us to do some nighttime events, evening events at the golf courses, where we can attract market an event to say we're going to do the Cosmic Golf on a particular night, and create a different environment and a different experience for families and enthusiasts that want to play in this form.
I have a few.
Absolutely.
Anything that we do to a golf course to improve it is 100% to me. One of the questions I have on this Cosmic is have you talked to anyone that has one of these, and what kind of revenue that they get from it? Does it make sense to spend $30,000? Are we going to be able to use it? I think it's a great idea. I'm just not sure if you're going to get enough revenue from it to compensate for the money that it's going to cost to run it, and what it costs to put it in there.
Right now, so far, the person that we've had the experience with is rents them out, hopes to sell them. I know Cedar Rapids right now is looking at the same. They had a really good trial. It was a successful trial there. They're going to be looking at a setup. The expense of it is pretty. Other than buying the products themselves, the expense of the setup is very portable and very simple. Like we can almost take this to any property that we need to, so it's very, there's not a lot of infrastructure related to it at all, other than the expense. And yes, it does also come with revenue projections based on like how often you do it, and how much you charge, and things like that. It's a sales tool, right?
Sure.
But we have the facilities. We have 3 different facilities to run it at. I don't think we'd have a problem getting the community use out of it. And then, we do look at everything doesn't have to be a profit. If it's a good community use and gets people to the golf course.
Gosh, I like to hear that, because that's what we've been fighting here.
Yeah, it has a lot of benefits of just getting people to the facility for this, but then they find out they like to golf a little bit. They show up the next afternoon and play, and play really golf, or they get good, they appreciate the services and everything, for their, might be entertaining their kids with it. Something.
I'm not sure if I'd want to want that portable, because if you had it portable going through different golf courses like out the 3 that we have, then it's not a situation. It's not a exclusive place where I can go hit night golf, because they may say, well, gee, I'm going to go to, it's set up at Duck Creek, and then next time it's at Emi's, and all of a sudden they forget where it's at. And
Sure.
so once it's established someplace, I think that's where it should stay.
Yeah, and that's an interesting comment, because Duck Creek in particular is where we did the trial for, and it does make a perfect fit there, because it's all secluded from any neighborhood also. And we do have the most walk-in type of environment at Duck Creek, because of the popularity of the park, and it's located it's located closer to more of the other communities of the Quad Cities are more connected there to come and try it.
I have some other questions, but it doesn't pertain to the 3 items that you have on there. Sure, we can do that. I can talk to them on a separate basis too, as well, too.
No problem.
Now, would that be something that you could rent out for like birthday parties or stuff like that, or?
Well, the range would could become a birthday party destination now, if you got that scheduled, or you could either schedule it during when we're already set up for the event, or yes, it could be modified into that type of a unit. Absolutely.
My question is about additional staffing required. You talked about setting it up, and then gathering everything at the end, et cetera. So how much of existing staff that you're accustomed to using would be used, or would the cost for additional staffing?
It wouldn't require any additional staff, it just required additional hours to set it up, but then you were also bringing in revenue that, on those additional hours, so that should wash or benefit.
So the cost would be, cost for staffing would be included in the use fee?
Yes. Mhm.
No, I'm sorry.
What do we got left? Okay, so these last four are just ones that didn't really fit in necessarily particular categories. So we have a request for Christmas light enhancements for Fedgeberry. The Miracle Field playground surface. Okay, that's what I thought. So with the Miracle Field, we had to relocate the playground. This is sort of a safeguard. I feel we have adequate fundraise, so if I had a preference, this one would probably be rated low, but we threw it in there if there's money left over just to accommodate that. But we have enough, I think, in the Miracle Field Fund to handle that. The electric sign at Centennial Park, this is just a marketing piece, but it's a sign where we can change the display similar to what we have out at Annie Witt. And then the last one was the park signage study and standardization. This one, again, is another one that if I were to try to sway your votes, and I would never totally do that, but the city's going through a larger branding process that would possibly adversely impact or make us change what we are doing now. So this is another one that could probably be pushed down the list and not prioritized as highly. But it is something, we do have different signs everywhere, so we do eventually want to get to the point where we have a unique branded signage package throughout our system. The other component of this one would be, we've had some comments about wayfinding signage in some of our larger parks, particularly Duck Creek. We would include that in this package to do some wayfinding stuff. And then that concludes the project list. Now, I wanted to touch on a couple things that were mentioned that you may not have seen on this list and give you an explanation as to why. Gaga pits were mentioned last month, I believe, and we had done a couple of those in Iowa City where I was prior. So the pricing on those are around $4,000. One of the key things, I think, though, the first step is probably to look at where we would want to put those before we put any funding towards building them. So I would entertain thoughts and ideas. Part of in my director's report, I'll be touching on the park review exercise that you guys went through. There may be some information within that might help us identify where Gaga might fit into the system and be well utilized. So that was not included. The other one is Vanderveer, the light show that has been discussed, enhancing that. My feeling on that is the cost is low enough that we can handle that through some operating funds, so I didn't include it on this project list, but it is something we're going to look towards moving forward with. So I think that pretty much summarizes it. The only other one was the third dog park that we've talked about, a larger scale dog park, and I think last month I mentioned the cost of that. That would be a separate CIP that we'll look to fund in future years. So, closing questions, comments about the project lists presented.
Just remember, you'll find a new checkoff list in your packet, and it's due the 19th.
We would appreciate if we can have that back by the 19th of February.
Can they email that to you, Jessica? Yes. If they want to? Yes. If
All right, thank you.
No other questions for Chad, all right?
Under new business, we had a friends group discussion. If you look at your packet in the back, Jessica has a brief, what do you want to say, a brief outline of the friends groups. We discussed having a meeting and inviting the 5 largest groups to come and meet all at the same time with us rather than at one at a time. So we'll try to set that up so that just maybe 1 or 2 officers of each group, hopefully, they can come and introduce themselves, what they'd like to do, what they are planning on doing. Is there any questions on that? Well, seeing none, I'm sorry, Jerry.
I read through all of those, and they all have great things that they're doing. And I do think that 1 at a time is probably enough, or maybe 2, just to find out what their ideas and what they want to do going forward. Like the ones for the off-road. It looks like they're all over the Quad Cities in different areas, and so they've got sounds like they've got some pretty good revenue coming through that too as well. But I don't see anything for Credit Island on there. So I'd like to question that, why they wouldn't have one down there, I would think.
It's on the next page, Jerry.
Well, no, I'm talking about the road cycling at Credit Island.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You wanted to
So
They're not, they've got them all over, but they don't have one at Credit Island. But I wasn't sure. But I think it's a good idea just to have those guys come in 1 at a time, I think. That way, of course, I don't know how many questions you're gonna ask them, I suppose.
I don't know.
I would support not having all of them. I think maybe 2 at a time. What I see is we've now got a real good sense of mission and goals, but yet we have no sense in any of them in detail on where they might be going, and I think it will generate a lot of questions. So I would not go for all. I don't think we need 1 at a time, but depending upon our agenda, that's a factor too. But maybe 2 would be my vote, I guess, or my statement.
And we had our ward meeting the other night. Chad was there, and some guy was bringing up, wanted to make an ATV course or something down there at Credit Island. This guy was 74 years old. Is that just a place to, so I guess.
He's not afraid of breaking this thing.
Yeah. So somebody has got some interest down there. I don't know where we would even stand on that, or you just told me to go ahead, did you?
No. I think my expectation, or what I would expect, is probably 15 to 20 minutes of agenda time for each of the groups would probably suffice. So seeing there's 5 large groups, if we stagger, do 2 at one meeting, maybe 3 at the next, or 2 and 1, we can certainly just schedule them out that way. And depending on their schedule too, and what they're working on, and their downtime, and their year, certain times of the year might be easier for them to get in and talk to us. So, like for example, the Fork group, we just approved a project through council to do the off-road trail on North Marquette, and that's a project that they're spearheading right now. So to answer your question, as far as Credit Island, their priority is at that project right now. It's a volunteer run organization, so their resources are relatively limited. But when they're here, we can certainly entertain the idea of, have you ever thought about Credit Island? And they can give you some. I mean, I'm sure they probably have, because they are consistently advocating for off-road trails throughout the Quad Cities, anywhere they can put them in. So, but if that's the direction, we can certainly handle putting them on various agendas and lining up those meetings.
Yeah, I could work with Jessica on that. We could get together and, send letters to them. Excuse me. Chris.
Yes, I just want to confirm that as well. I would like to see no more than 2 per time, depending on our agenda, of course, and questions we might have.
Okay, under staff reports, Riverfront Improvement Commission, they canceled their January meeting
Correct.
due to
Yeah.
inclement weather.
Yeah, we have no update from Riverfront Commission.
Yeah, so they will meet the last Tuesday of February and combine the 2 meetings. So next would be park operations.
You do have my written report in front of you. If you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer it. One thing that was not included on that written report is that we have our first open interview dates this Thursday. Believe it or not, I'm looking to hire summer staff already, because it takes a while. So if you know of anybody looking for a seasonal position, we think we're a great place to work. So Red Hawk Golf Course Event Center, we do our open interviews 3 different times. First one this Thursday, then the 28th, and then March 21st.
Just a question. When I read about the as soon as possible replace for the Credit Island Lodge equipment, how would that impact the budget? Is there anything there, or what do you estimate might happen?
That money would be funded out of a CIP. We've been asked to look at some of our projects that maybe didn't use the full allocation, as well as Clay Merritt, who is the CIP manager, has access to citywide CIPs. If a project ends up being $5,000 less than what they anticipated, we'll pull from various.
Thanks.
So, but it is a significant sum of money, so yeah, it would not come out of our operating.
Okay, thanks.
So what was the problem? Excuse me. What was the problem at the lodge at Credit Island? He said something about may need to be replaced.
Yeah, we have the existing furnace was not replaced after the fire. It was not, and it currently sits on a flood-proof ledge outside the back of the building. It's struggling right now. Let me just say it that way.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Next would be Teresa.
Hi. I just wanted to point out a couple of the things that I did put in my report. We did run Chili Golf there were some challenges, so thank you to Troy and the golf operations for making it possible, because with the weather challenges, they never ceased this year. The ground on top was frozen, but it was almost thermal to underneath, so it was very, very soft. So when we put the equipment out there, it went right down to the ground and was actually tearing up the course, the original plan. So they worked with us, and we were able to have it out, and everyone that does it just really looks forward to it. So it's a really good event that we have. We had some questions last month about accessibility, and I just wanted to point out that is something that we are always looking to work to do, but we do offer over 9 to 12 scholarships via our different programs through Junior Theater, Learn to Skate, some of our other dance program, through these other organizations, like through some of our partners like Junior Theater Inc., and 180 and Have Life. They offer scholarships, like full scholarships to youth, and we take advantage of those programs. So we're looking to continue to do that, but like I said, also always looking to figure out how we can make it more accessible, but also are very mindful about our rates and making sure that we are the most accessible program. in town. And then I too am starting to hit the road for our positions, our youth corps positions, AmeriCorps positions in the summer. They all increase vastly, as well as our aquatics and all those other positions. So we have about, I think I have like 12 job fairs and career fairs that we're going to in the next month. Just kind of also to bring it to the schools and stuff like that, to let them know about the opportunities that are there for them, as well as the ones that we have regularly scheduled, and just kind of upsell that. And just of note, the Cosmic Golf, we sponsor a hole every year at the Big Brother Big Sister Putt-a-thon. And 2 years ago, our hole won. We did foot golf to kind of also remind people that we have foot golf, and that won. And then this year, we did a Cosmic Golf hole, and it won the Builder Award. So, those are two little fun things. Any questions or anything?
I just have a question by where are those places where you will be listed? Is it on our page? Park and Rec for the hiring fairs?
For the hiring fairs?
Yeah.
I did not include that. I could actually send that out though. But it's pretty much everywhere you would probably think. We're going to be at St. Ambrose a couple different ways. We're going to be there in their health sciences and in their rec management one. We've been at Western, and we're going to go back out to Western Quad City campus, Blackhawk, all of the high schools, including Mid-City, as well. We're kind of doubling up on that. We're going to also do the Mayor's Youth Job Fair, and that's going to be 2 different locations this year. It's going to be at JB as well as North High School, so kind of 2 different times, 2 different places to help make sure that everyone has access to those opportunities. What am I forgetting? Blackhawk, Scott, Augie. So pretty much like all of the universities and community colleges and high schools
Okay.
in our area.
Great.
Okay.
How do you advertise for that?
Well, we actually directly contact the schools when we're going to be there. But we've also put it on our Facebook and stuff like that we're hiring, and then there's different opportunities. But we really put it on them. Like we contact also when we're at the colleges, the professors that we work with and their career areas to let them know that we're coming. We've done because of AmeriCorps and having so many different opportunities through that, we contact them in a variety of capacities to try to fill all those positions with really qualified
So do
people.
most of those positions, are they filled by high school, college kind of
Usually,
individuals?
yes. Yes. We also do market our AmeriCorps specific positions through a lot of different opportunities, through our sites themselves. So like Big Brothers Big Sisters will put out any opportunity, as well Girl Scouts, as will the schools, to kind of, like, they might not be a good fit for their site, but they are a good fit for one of the other 99 opportunities we have. Right now, though, we have specifically like 30 AmeriCorps positions for the summer specifically, on top of the 40 Youth Corps opportunities we have. So
That's a lot.
that's a lot. So that's why we make a targeted effort of making sure we recruit. But also, the better they are and the more interested they are, the better it is for everyone. So.
And one more question, do you ever consider seniors for any of these volunteer positions?
Yes, and we do. There used to be a really nice opportunity to market to them. We do that. We used to have an RSVP program. We don't right now. That funding has been renewed, so to speak. So if an agency goes for that, we'll probably work with them in that capacity. But we give our old list and any of the volunteer opportunities that we have for working with seniors, we definitely push those out to them as well.
Okay.
And they are very good, especially the school positions. Those are a very good fit.
Okay, good, thanks.
Anything else? No problem.
All right, so for your revenue facilities update, the city council did approve all the fee increases that were across the board for our whole department. including the golf fees. So I'm in the process of publishing those on the website and on the posters that'll go out to all the golf courses to put into their POSs. The Learn to Skate session that was going on this spring is 17% up. That's a nice good amount from the fall. So that's a good healthy number on our Learn to Skate. We always like that. Basically we consider that the frontline feeding program to the River's Edge activities and the whole skating activity. I too am part of the Park and Recreation job interview session. The golf staff that we hire comes through there as well. We've converted about 80% of our staff over to part-time, so we do, but we still hire a handful of seasonal employees for mostly on the cart shuttling and concession end of things. We're also we're also getting back to hiring a few rangers. Golf rangers have been eliminated from the budget for quite a few years, but we had a couple working last year that I felt were successful, so I'm open to that. So if you know anybody that would make a good golf ranger, please tell them to call me or to apply and let me know they're in the system. I'd like to talk to them. Yeah, I just put in there about this weather's been crazy and the snow, and we got some golf. We had to get out. We had to be pretty creative to set up the Chili Open this year. It's normally pretty well for 4 or 5 years we haven't had any snow at all, so it's been really easy. We didn't know how easy we had it. So the idea of blading the snow or carving it in is normally how we attack it, and because of the weather, we couldn't even look at it until the day before. And the snow is knee deep at best. You guys are pretty aware how much snow we had on Saturday. I can't believe it's all gone. It's hard to believe there's that much snow on the ground and there's grass now. But that's all I have other than questions.
On the service road at Emi's, that goes down by 5.
Okay.
That area right in there is not in good shape at all as far as the service road goes. Is that going to be repaired then too? Think?
We could include it if we were able to acquire money for it. We could do a section of it.
I think
there.
it just needs to be that area right where that ditch goes through.
Yeah,
there.
right
It's kind
where it
of
goes
a
along the
ravine.
pond. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we'll look.
That's probably more of the issue, but then the rest of it.
Yeah, it's in the same problem area as
Because it's
Duck
getting
Creek.
washed out is what's
It's where-
happening.
Yep, it's in a dip, and those service roads we pile gravel into them over the years and everything, but we've been really working hard on the course and trying not to get too sidetracked on on things that we can work around. They're just starting to catch up with us now because they're washing out so bad, and before we sink a lot of time and effort into them, we want to see if we can do it permanently and be done with them, as far as paving them over in these trouble areas so they don't just keep taking our time away from the course.
This might be down the road a little bit, or I can just not. We don't need to discuss it, but it's you and I had talked about at one time maybe purchasing the golf carts, and whether they were or whether they weren't, and whether they decide to do and whether they decide not to do that. Then it would come down to having a place to put those carts in.
Sure.
So out at Emi's and those buildings that they have out there, they all probably need to be tore down and put all new up.
Yeah, that's the original farmstead that we're working out of, and we're actually part of the.
That's my point, is going back out there.
Okay. Yep. And it's the golf cart. Owning the golf carts, you definitely need to be able to store them over the winter. So because we don't have that, we've leased. That's not the only reason. I mean, there's a feasible reason to continue a lease. That they take them in every winter and do a
maintenance.
tune up, a maintenance shop, and then they bring them out for the winter. The reason you still see the ones at Duck Creek, we do leave us a pack of 30 there, because if it gets nice enough, we'll open them up and let them play, which we've had several years before, like the previous snowless years, we've been okay, but probably not gonna happen for a
Well,
while.
I know you talked about tearing down both those homes, those houses that are there. Is that gonna happen too this year, maybe next year, or is that?
There's a CIP this fiscal year to tear down, I believe the one at Emice, right? Yeah.
Would
Or
that,
both of them.
would that include maybe down the road after that you'd replace the barns out there maybe, or even the ones down in Deck Creek for that matter?
One of the things that comes is when the site's cleared from the house, that allows us a spot for a site for another storage shed there, because the infrastructure, the power and the water will be at that site. So that's something we're looking into as phasing in a new maintenance structure over time, and
So
we
it's of mention then.
absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a couple quick things to update you on. In your packets, you'll see the summaries of the feedback exercise that you all participated in. First, thank you very much. The information gathered is extremely helpful. We will have this as a discussion item as new business next month, so I just wanted to give you guys the summary report to just look at so you can see all the different comments and stuff. And then we'll go from there just as a review and a discussion to help maybe shape some future projects and ideas from that. The other thing you note, a lot of the staff reports this month were weather related. Kudos to our team. We've been battling the polar vortex, much like Public Works and everybody else in the community. But with this weather that we've had, and my first time really going through the process here in Davenport, we are going to be looking at some of our standard operating procedures as far as how we handle snow and extreme colds. During the sub-lows last week, you may have noticed that we ended up closing down 4 of our facilities on Wednesday and opening late on Thursday due to the extreme close. That was something that was just a citywide sort of decision, and not something that we have standardized as a practice, but it's something I want to put in place. We had another issue, we're concerned whether or not like dog parks or other maybe seasonal outside facilities, if we go to closing those for safety of patrons and animals as opposed to trying to move snow. So all that stuff will be looked at as we go forward here. It's just really my first turn here in Davenport with how we do operate it. But staff, in my opinion, they're up against it, and we don't have a lot of seasonal staff this time of year. So with what staff we had, Betsy's crews, Troy's crews, they did a great job in getting on top of the snow and the extreme colds. A lot of it was checking our heating systems at our lodges and stuff. Even though we closed operations on Wednesday, we did have a couple staff come in just for that purpose. So they braved the elements and were on call, going around and making sure our heaters were working in our lodges, and we didn't have any burst pipes. We didn't have any issues like that, so they stayed on top of it. So that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
I just had a couple of things. Put these on here. We discussed, speaking of friends groups, I would like to meet with Jerry and Ryan, anybody else that's interested, at just a small meeting sometime where we could sit down and discuss how we're going to move forward. A way to get started. So we'll have to decide amongst us where to meet and what time. As far as the junior theater trip, we're going to reschedule that and perhaps make it a board meeting at junior theater someday or something. Chad, is that possible?
It's not possible. We can't move a meeting there. The meetings have to be held here. It is possible to reschedule the trip if you guys are interested, or as Teresa mentioned, if it's more convenient just to reach out directly to Daniel and on your own accord, he'd be more than happy to make individual time to tour you guys around, or we could collectively try to reschedule the meeting. We could do both. With that said, too, anytime, I think we talked a little bit about trying to connect. If you guys have a particular interest area, whether it's Junior Theater or Roosevelt or Vanderveer or whatever, and you guys want to engage staff or learn more about those facilities, anytime you want, we're more than happy to set those times, set tours, get opportunities for you guys to get out and see those operations and those facilities up close and personal. So just contact me, reach out to Jessica, or you can work directly with Betsy or Teresa or Troy on any of that as well.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, I know both with Chevy and Scott that we used to visit those facilities and have meetings there. I'm just wondering and curious what's different, what's changed, who's that under? To staff.
Sure. So the change is goes in hand with the actual PAB meeting or your monthly meeting having to take place at City Hall here in the conference chambers for the television purposes. We can have special meetings. They would just have to be separate from your this monthly meeting. You'd still have to have this. We'd just have to advertise it and say it's a special meeting and follow all the open meetings rules if the entire advisory board wants to meet.
I found them beneficial to go as a group to these different facilities and tour and discuss and.
Yeah, it just can't take the place of your formal meeting.
Okay.
So if the idea was to, in lieu of this meeting, hold it at Junior Theater, that can't happen because we don't have the technical requirements to film it and all that. So
Under new administration, in other words, that's changed. Got it.
Okay, I had one more request here under, when you have the, I think this would probably be Betsy, when you have the annual spring baseball meeting with the Little Leagues, could you just send out a notice? I know several of the members are, former coaches of Little League and that, they would like to attend that meeting just to sit in and see, how things are going. Is that possible? Thank you.
In moving forward, I hope that whatever you decide as the initial committee and when you're going to meet, that someone lets us all know when that is and invite. Well, it was the moving forward, like after we all have the information from our survey questions, the 4 questions, and then I thought what I heard was that Richard and Ryan and Jerry you're suggesting that initial committee come together and talk about how do we move forward or something like that. Is that, maybe I was hearing it wrong, and just making sure we all know when you're going to meet.
Ryan, did you want to?
Sure. I was just advised, not just advised, but I was advised that because of our roles on this board, we can't be a part of a nonprofit organization. So there's like a conflict of interest. I just want that clarified. We were all passionate about parks, but we don't want to do something that's wrong or unethical. So I guess we need some guidance on that as far as our involvement in the starting of a nonprofit thing.
Okay, so it's the nonprofit meeting.
I mean, it would be.
Okay, that's good. That's clearing it up. Thanks.
Yeah, what I was talking about was we had discussed the idea of a Friends of the City Parks group. That's what I was, and we can't. And like Ryan said, we don't we don't want the board to be involved heavily in that. So, but I wanted to meet with a couple of people just to see if they have any ideas on members of the public or that might want to, take this on and start this up. Some way to get this going without directly involving us. So that was my point. Thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Sure, I move that we adjourn.
What? Okay, Ryan seconded. All in favor? Aye. Aye. All